Running for governor.
You need to be someone in this country to change the system. Nobody will give you any credit, nobody will listen to you unless you're somebody already. So it's kind of a exercise in futility, what you're doing right now.
Well, people who think that way usually don't get a lot done in their life.
Not necessarily. Okay, if you really want to change the world, do yourself a favor. Become famous first, become someone first, then go ahead and change the world.
Well, I'm not trying to become famous. I'm trying to fix some problems.
But it's impossible unless you are somebody already.
When you follow your passion and your dreams, things have a funny way of working out sometimes.
We'll see in November.
And it doesn't matter, even if it's not about winning this particular election, it's about going down that path toward trying to help society. It is.
I'm losing interest.
Well, that's the way life actually works.
Yes, honey, I know. But when you have unpaid bills and a financial mess at home, you shouldn't be anywhere else but at home.
Well, we had a child when we had unpaid bills. And
yeah,
okay.
I know. It wasn't okay. But
and you know how much a child costs to raise? If we waited for the perfect moment.
That's not true.
Yeah. Well, all of life is like that. There are no perfect moments to start anything except when you actually do it. And by default, it becomes the perfect
There's
moment.
no perfect moment, but there's very unsuitable moments, and I think right now is one of them.
It's not unsuitable to me.
Right now, he's the only one having fun with this campaign, okay? I had fun with it a year ago for a few months, and I'm done. And when I'm done, I'm done. I know you have a higher calling, but I think you're going at it the wrong way.
For me, it's a duty.
I
have to do it.
Fulfill the duty to the family first, then go save the world.
It's 5:30. Now, Fox 35 News you need to know.
Don't recognize this face? Maybe you should. You're going to meet the local man who's hoping to take over Governor Charlie Crist's job, what he's trying to accomplish. First on Fox, I'm Amy Kaufman.
I'm Cale Remaker. If you have a beef with the way Charlie Crist is running Florida, a new option revealing itself tonight, a Volusia County man ready to run for governor. But you probably don't even recognize his face or his name, so we went straight to him tonight to see what he's all about. Fox 35's Shannon Butler introduces you to Michael Arth.
Michael Arth took this rundown neighborhood in DeLand and turned it into this. What was once Cracktown is now the Garden District. He says this was a small project compared to what he wants to take on next, being governor.
Well, this last election, it was all about change, change, change. And as I said, we've been short-thrifted in the change department.
The 56-year-old developer, artist, and author says it's time for someone like him who wants to deal with the issues to be governor. He says that starts with electoral reform, reform in the judicial system, and a real crackdown on crime. Arth says he really wants to run on those issues, not on money.
Painted and fixed up their house.
But the candidate has a tough road ahead. Aside from having little money to run on, challengers like Bill McCollum has 25 years of political experience, and Alex Sink has the Democratic Party's backing. Not to mention, this is his first run at a political office.
To be a viable candidate today, you need to learn how to brown nose. You need to learn how to be a part of the party machine. And those skills I do not have. That's true. But I've been a policy analyst for 15 years, working on the side, and I've been working in the community doing real things. And so I'll stand on my experience any day.
It's a big job, so why not start small? Well, that's just not Michael Arth's style.
Because I'm not a career politician. I'm an action-oriented, results-oriented person.
In DeLand, Shannon Butler, Fox at 5.
One final note, Arth is running as a Democrat.
Well, I would love for them to be there, but there's no way in hell they're going to show up. They don't want to be caught in the same room with me because they don't want to have a debate about the real issues. And that's what it's all about. Or that's what it should be about. But what it's really about is the money and the power. And they got into office because the party leaders decided that they would support the status quo, and that's what we get through every election cycle. We get the people who are going to keep perpetuating the same mess that we have now.
Do you remember who taught you how to tie a tie?
My dad showed me, and then I forgot for years, and then I finally just looked it up on the internet. And I'm still not exactly sure, but you start off a foot longer, I know that much, and then actually maybe it's better to start the other side. Yeah, this is how I remember it. Okay, so you go 1 foot longer, and it gives you a lot of rope to hang yourself with. And come back around, and I think around again, and I think I've got it this time. And now my wife's going to say my shirt is too wrinkly.
Do you think that American voters pay too much attention to the image of politicians? Is that one of the major things that's wrong?
Well, it's designed that way because policymakers don't want people paying attention to the substance. They'd rather have them focus on the simple appearances and the fluff, which is also why politics is dirty politics. Because if everybody's focused on stuff that doesn't matter, they don't notice all the stuff that does. There, look like a politician, sort of. Off to the races. Ladies first. This is called the next governor of Florida. Florida's top 3 leaders were invited. I didn't really expect they would come. The university invited them. Oh, here we are. It's Stetson. Can you help carry something?
Yeah.
All right. Charlie Crist or Bill McCollum?
I don't care. They're all the same.
Oh, you got a good point there.
Unfortunately, only Arth was brave enough to speak in front of the public in such an open setting tonight. As he said, these hollow leaders were chosen by the party bosses on the basis of being able to speak without saying anything of substance. Even if they did show up, they would not act very different from these cardboard cutouts. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Michael E. Arth.
Little boy went to his father and he said, "Dad, what's politics?" He said, "My, that's an awfully big concept for such a small boy. Let me see if I can explain it to you this way." He said, "I'm the breadwinner in this family, so let's call me capitalism. Your mother buys the groceries, pays the bills, so we'll call her the government. We're here to take care of you, so we'll call you the people. The nanny, let's make her the working class. Your little baby brother, well, he's the future. Think about that for a while and see if it makes any sense." The little boy padded off to bed. Later that night, he woke up, he heard his baby brother crying for a long time. No one seemed to be coming, so he went into his parents' room, and he saw that his mother was asleep, and he didn't want to disturb her. So he went to the nanny's room, and he found the door locked. So he looked in through the keyhole, And there was his father in bed with the nanny. At this point, he just gave up and went back to bed. Next morning, he went to his father and he said, "Dad, I think I understand politics now." And his father said, good son. Tell me in your own words what you think politics is all about." And he said, "Well, while capitalism is screwing the working class, the government's sound asleep, the people are being ignored, and the future is in deep shit." Politics can certainly be a dirty business, both on a personal and societal level, but nothing could be more important, from the air we breathe, to the food we eat, to the shelter over our head, and how we get along. A guiding principle to all of this is rarely articulated. Lincoln said that our government is of the people, for the people, and by the people, but we need a formula to go with that. So I propose that the goal of politics is to bring the greatest good to the greatest number in the most efficient manner possible in this and future generations. Unfortunately, that goal has been compromised by our two-party system. I went to Maya and told her that I was going to run for governor, and she said, this is a terrible idea. That politics is really a dirty business. You can't do it. And I tried to lighten the mood, so I said, yeah, just call me my best Cockney accent. Yeah, just call me governor. And she started laughing, and I thought, it wasn't that funny. And so I said, "So what are you laughing about?" And she said, she's Bulgarian. And she said, "Well, in Bulgarian, govna means shit." She said, they're going to
pick you up and eat you, and then you will really end up governor, if you know what I mean.
And I did know what she meant. And I thought, well, I'm just not going to sit in a corner and hide my beliefs while our government is stolen from us. It's not right. And as a concerned citizen, I'm going to do my duty and get out there and run for office and at least talk about these issues. Then I went to my father-in-law, Vladimir Petkov, and I said, he's also from Bulgaria, of course. I told him I was going to run. He said, "What? You're joining mafia?"
This was my first reaction.
And I said, oh, it's not that bad here. And at least not yet. And since then I've discovered different, that in some sense it is just as bad as that. And what's worse is people don't really understand how bad it is. That's the sad part. At least in Bulgaria they know what's up. Okay, the mafia is running everything. Let me just give you one statistic. The Department of Justice reported that between 1998 and 2007, 824 public officials were convicted in the state of Florida alone. This is more than any other state. This is only the tip of the iceberg. Most of them got away with their crimes. On top of that, we've got legal bribery. It's bad enough. Almost $300 million a month is spent by or for 13,000 paid lobbyists to feast like fleas on the body politic in Washington every month. $300 million to buy our policies. This is why we got the health bill that we got, that was written by the lobbyists. The reason we have a two-party system is because we have the winner-take-all system. In England, they call it first past the post. And that's good for a horse race. But in politics, that's a terrible idea, because what happens is the one with the most votes may not represent the majority. In fact, in most cases, does not represent the majority. The Republican Party itself, inside of its own organization, elected Michael Steele with something called instant runoff voting. When our founding fathers set forth our great nation, they didn't even put anything about a voting system in the Constitution. They just assumed they would carry on with the British tradition of first past the post. And that's the only reason we have it. There's nothing in the Constitution about that we have to have this unfair voting system. And I dare say if I went outside and I tracked down 1,000 people and I asked them what kind of voting system we have and to explain it, they wouldn't be able to explain it to you. And that's just the way these three leaders like to keep it. That's the way the parties want to keep it. They do not want you to know what's fair. In fact, they would rather lose an election than have a fair election, which is what happened with the Democrats. They would rather lose a presidential election, which they did, and not say a word about it. The only Democrat that I can think of who stood up and says, no, this is wrong, is Howard Dean. The Founding Fathers didn't know anything about DNA. Our genes, our race, our parents, our upbringing, our environment, our schooling, our connections, pure chance all conspire to make us unequal. This is where fairness comes into play. It is the role of government to make sure that, as Thomas Hobbes put it in 1651, life is not poor, nasty, brutish, and short, as a result of the war of every man against every man. Unfortunately, our country is devolving away from equality. The U.S. is 91st. That's below Mexico. 93% of all the wealth in this country, not related to our primary residence, is held by the richest 20%. That means 80% of us share 7% of the wealth. Energy policy. Even cloudy, rainy, northerly Germany has the highest solar energy production in the world. We're the Sunshine State. We have the powerful Gulf Stream just off our shores. We could easily be the energy leader with solar and hydropower instead of pursuing dead-end fossil fuels that are making us dependent on foreign oil. And part of the excuse for spending that $1.5 trillion a year. If we'd been spending even a tiny fraction of that military budget on alternative energy the last 20 years, we would have licked the problem. And we would be the world's leader in alternative energy instead of Germany and China now. Even as I speak, there's a 50 by 80 mile oil slick off Florida's coast. This oil spill has a 600-mile circumference. And most people have heard about this. This made the news. But how many of you know that 240 oil rigs and platforms went down in a 3-year period during those hurricanes? 240 of them. And there were oil spills associated with nearly all of them. I find it tragically ironic that the fossil fuels, which are worsening global warming, are also increasing in intensity the hurricanes that are destroying these platforms. And so this is a challenge to each of us. Can I look objectively at what I'm doing in life and ask myself, is my job really needed? What's my role in society? What can I do to help others? We've had several generations now of people asking, what can society do for me? What favor am I going to get from that politician? And that's because the politicians work that way with the lobbyists and the special interests. They're just looking out for themselves. And so as a society, we've gotten out of the habit of thinking in terms of being part of a community and being part of a society and being part of a nation that moves and grows together. And with that, I'm going to open the question and answer period.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. May.
It's nuts. The only reason politicians talk about these things is because Kennedy talked about going to the moon, and every politician since then thinks he has to be Kennedy-esque, including George Bush. What we should do is focus on these robotic missions and explore the solar system and beyond. And we could do it for a fraction of the cost. We could have lots of different programs going on and keep people employed, but we could get 10, 20 times as much of a return in terms of real knowledge. There's no reason to put squishy little humans out in space, especially since robots are going to far exceed human capabilities anyway. And certainly Spirit and Opportunity have far exceeded what any humans could have done on Mars. The main problem with our educational system is that teachers only have students from before the age of 19, about 9% of the student's life. So the other 91% is spent at home with parents and with friends and in society. And so this goes back to the population problem again. When people who are not going to be very good parents are having too many children, they're not going to raise children who are going to be very good students. And so to me, that should be the number one concern. Virtual reality is also growing, so online virtual school is going to be huge in the future, but we need these small, intimate classrooms, which village-like settings where children can feel nurtured in a community. So it's not just the school in isolation, it's the whole community and how we raise our children. And please visit the website. It's called michaelearth.org. Like I said, I'll probably be switching to a no party affiliation in June. If I do stick in there, I hope you'll register as a Democrat in the primary, but there'll be an announcement at the website. I would say probably a 95% chance I'm going to switch to no party affiliation later. And so in that case, please vote on November 2nd. You should run for president, please. Thank you, whoever that was.
Well, I give you a lot of credit. I was registered Republican ever since, my whole family's been that way.
Yeah.
But I vote according to who is trying to do the right thing. I don't care about party affiliation unless everything was equal. What I would like to see is you have the best opportunity to make sure that when you're reaching out to the population, that they get it, that they can say, yeah, these, I've got certain things important to me today, but we can get there collectively, regardless of what our interests are, if we take these steps and have someone that could actually tell us how to do that or share with us how that's done. And for that, I'll vote for you in November regardless, even if you don't get elected. The fact that if you're trying to do the right things, that's worth my vote. And also, I thought it was interesting you're going to bite Florida.
I appreciate your comments. I'm still learning. In fact, the first speech I made was a total disaster. It was outside, and there was a thunderstorm right in the middle, and the thunder. I want to thank the Democratic Women's Club of Volusia County for hosting this event. I went to your website yesterday, and I was glad to learn that men are also welcome to join. So I just want to say to all of you that even though I'm a Democrat, thank you. I also want to assure you I'm not a chauvinist. I'm a lifelong advocate of women's rights, and it was actually a card-carrying member of the National Organization for Women 20 years ago. Thank you. Nevertheless, in regards to this speech, I will quote what that notorious chauvinist, Henry VIII, once said to each of his 7 wives, and that is, I won't hold you for very long. 8 years ago, my wife and I drove across the country from Santa Barbara, California. We had decided that we were going to move here and buy up a slum neighborhood in DeLand, which was called Cracktown, also known as The End and Deadland. And I had been working on a book for 15 years called The Labors of Hercules, Modern Solutions to 12 Herculean Problems. And I've been working as a green builder and a urban designer and a policy analyst. It was the frustration at seeing how the world is and how politics is that has driven me to want to seek this office. You've got to look at the big picture and understand the big picture in order to be effective in the details. Sometimes it's better not to get into too many details because when it comes down to actual policy, it's going to require a lot more effort to study the policies. And I don't know everything about everything. Of course, I would like to have seen more people here. It's a challenge to get anybody to show up to listen to somebody talk about politics. I told my 8-year-old that I was running for governor, and the first thing she said was, boring!
Oh boy. Almost 2 hours. And he did mention that it will be a couple of hour deal, and that's when I said Sophie cannot be present for that thing. I'm a pretty negative person in a way. I guess perfectionist would be more correct to say, but I see the negative first. It hits me, all the little things that went wrong. So he has a lot of work to do in the future. He needs to practice. Somebody buy him a trainer, a professional who will polish him a little bit.
He seems unwilling to have a campaign manager.
No, he's very willing, but we don't have the money. That's why he said, we're looking for interns. People will feed us. People will put us up in their places. But he bought 3 tents, so he's ready to sleep in a tent if he has to. Which is why I always try to not say bad things, or at least not to start, but I just can't help myself.
Early in the race, I was crossing our street with my video camera in hand when I saw my daughter's cat, Snowbell, playing with a grasshopper. The cat batted him around a few times but quickly got bored. This is a well-fed cat. The little grasshopper was not giving up so easily. Of clear across the street, he turned to face the feline. He set his course, marched all the way across the street, straight up to the cat, and proceeded to give him a kick in the paw with his tiny leg, which did nothing to the cat, of course. In fact, the grasshopper had to kick her a few times before the cat finally chased him into the bushes, where he became like a little guerrilla fighter in the jungle. I can identify with that grasshopper because I'm like a tiny arthropod going up against the fat cats who own this country. I'm doing everything I know how to do, and now and then I get swatted for my effort. But for the most part, I'm ignored because the special interests know that, at least by myself, I'm not a serious threat to their stranglehold on our democracy. Hi guys, I'm running for governor. I'm Michael Arth.
Hey, how are you?
Can I give you a flyer?
Sure.
All right, there you go.
Thank you.
I bought up this place called Cracktown in DeLand, Florida, and redid it, and that's how it looks now.
So the crackheads have a really nice place now. So I have a lot of money and I want to use crack. Is that okay?
Absolutely. In fact, it should be legalized.
That's right. Very good. Good answer. I'll take
Regulated and
tax
legalized.
it and that's it.
Tax it, that's it. There was no end of problem. That's where most of the corruption comes from, both the governmental corruption and the organized crime.
That's right.
Alcohol and tobacco both are far more dangerous than any of the illegal substances.
I mean, if you want to do heroin, as long as you're not breaking into my house, stealing my TV.
Well, you won't be if it's legalized.
Yeah.
If it's illegal, you're going to be doing all kinds of nasty stuff.
So you're biking across
If this was
Florida?
illegal, believe me, people would be breaking into houses to get it. Yeah.
Are you biking across Florida?
Yeah. Really? Not just across it, from bottom to top. Beginning here, there's the bike.
Wow, very nice, very nice,
Yeah.
very nice.
It's not about the bike ride, it's about the people.
Meeting the people.
Meeting the people, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck.
Thank you very much.
You still got, what, a year and a half?
No, it's November 2nd. I've been in the race a year already. Oh, very well.
No, I've always been disillusioned to vote for a third-party candidate because I felt like I was in a situation where my vote would be wasted, so to speak, because the Republicans and Democrats have so much more money and so much more power that I was concerned that I would lose that.
To create a system that would allow people to still have equal representation in the media, because the media is run by money. Because the capitalist system usurps any kind of governmental system.
The ideal is to have a representative democracy. That's good, honey. Keep it just a foot away. Yeah.
Let's talk about the average voter.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Half of them don't bother to vote at all.
Exactly.
And even the ones that vote, most of them just they vote because they saw more signs for this one or saw some stupid ad. And
people don't care. Yeah. They don't care because all they see is that big money running system. So why bother? Why vote? How are you going to ensure that the bureaucrats who truly run the system are going to support the reforms that you're supporting? Because let's be honest, we can change everyone who's elected.
Yeah.
But the people who are entrenched in the system, how is that going to change?
H.L. Mencken once said, "Never argue with a man whose job depends on not being convinced." And so that is the biggest obstacle we have, is all these people have found a niche in an imperfect system, and if you change the system, you change their job description. I had a cop come up to me after talking about ending the war on drugs, and he says, well, you know, if you do that, a lot of cops are going to be out of work. When you have a system that's based on corruption, everybody's scratching everybody's back.
Right.
But if you have a system that's based on fairness and finding out the truth, the dynamic changes and you reach a tipping point where suddenly they're going like, okay, I know this is maybe not good for my current job, but the fact is jobs change very quickly these days. The challenge in the future is the increasing pace of technological change, which should be producing a bounty and making life easier for people. Instead, the riches are going to the richest 1%. 20% of this country controls 93% of the wealth. 1% has 43% of the wealth, not counting homes, which now are not worth that much.
Yeah, especially in this county.
Yeah, especially my house.
Right.
Now our debt ratio is 370% of GDP. This is the highest ever recorded in the United States, private and public debt. So you hear about the public debt.
Certainly. You don't hear about private debt.
It's twice as high as 1929. No matter what system it is, it's a mix. In any European society is a mix of socialism and market incentives, and that's what we're talking about here.
But they allow there to be socialism with the market, and this country only allows the market, and that's bullshit. That the economic system is allowed to run the country.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Or they allow a lot of socialism in the wrong areas, military.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, ladies. I'm running for governor. Michael Arth.
All right.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Michael Arth. I'm running for governor. Would you like a flyer?
Things.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, I'm Michael Arth. I'm running for governor. Did I give you a flyer yet? I'm Michael Arth. I'm running for governor. I was with the Democratic Party till they froze me out. Yeah. Okay. They told me it's all about the money and not about the issues.
And apparently you're somebody that people are looking to. Anybody you know that wants to help me teach the people in this world about some good things, put that in their hand.
All right. I'll put one of these in your hand too. There you go.
What's your name?
Michael Arth. I'm running for governor.
Oh, is it? Thanks. Shane Lombardi.
Am I turning red? It's because of the snow cone. Ask me about anything and I'll tell you where I stand. Because
gay marriage.
I'm against intolerance. I support gay marriage, especially those that want to adopt.
This state, this is the only state.
Yeah.
Right here.
Right.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And the riot. We need to move that on.
Well, for two good reasons. One is we need more commitment in this world, not less. Two, we have an overpopulation problem, and we have unwanted kids. So gay couples who adopt are not having children of their own, generally. So what they're doing is they're not contributing to the overpopulation problem, and they're solving the problem related to unwanted children. Instead of rewarding the worst parents, we should be rewarding parents who either do not have children or who do not have children but adopt.
Oil's not our friend. We need to find another way to do it. Oh, I like you.
We live in the Sunshine State.
I'm going to vote for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only reason I'm running in this campaign is because there are issues that are not talked about. In fact, they're assiduously voided by the politicians.
Because it's not comfortable.
They won't talk about the war on drugs, for example. We've got our incarceration rate here in Florida is 800% higher than Canada's, and yet our rate of violence is still higher. So obviously throwing people in jail doesn't work.
Human behavior, you cannot control it. It's going to be legislated.
Yeah.
I mean, you are a brave man because that is not a popular position.
Yeah, there are 800,000 gang members in this country. 30,000 gang members in this state. They all all sell drugs.
So why don't we have how many liquor stores do we have?
Yeah.
Why don't we
legalize it, regulate it,
you
tax it?
cannot legislate human behavior. So if they're gonna want to do drugs, let's get some money off.
That's right.
It's not a sin tax. Actually, yes, it is.
You'll have less of a problem, and you'll save tens of billions of dollars.
Right? I'm a Republican. Just because I like the concept of fiscal responsibility and, and paying for what you know. I think we all need to listen to Benjamin Franklin. You know, you want to buy your way in and understand what you're paying for, and nothing's free. Nothing in the world is free.
I agree. Unfortunately, neither the Republicans nor the Democrats understand that.
They've both gone wildly wrong, and I want somebody to stand up and say, I want to do something different. So political. That might be you.
I do. I am.
I wish you well. You got my vote. You're doomed, but I wish you well. I really do. God bless you. God bless
you. Thank you. All right, man.
Just help us. We need to do something different.
I'm Michael Arth. I'm running for governor. Hey guys, I'm the only progressive in the race. I'm running for governor. I thought if I could give you some flyers. Pass out. Nah. I'm actually independent. It says Democrat. They kicked me out of the party. Mike and Mike. Governor.
I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun. And meeting people is fun, talking to people. Excitement of the crowd. The diversity. It was all fun. And Sophie had a good time, and that's important.
Sophie got up on the truck and was throwing beads.
Yeah, she was joining these two half-naked guys up on the truck with the beads. That was fun. She ended up sharing, which is a good lesson for her. Right now we've got 6 helpers. Sophie's going to go home on Monday.
And how did you find these helpers?
Craigslist mostly, but also through the website. And I actually got more than I needed. Advertised for a great adventure, lots of hard work, no time off, terrible food, sleeping accommodations, come what may.
When we got to Key West, we had to sneak into a hotel room. And that's when I knew that something crazy was happening. I was like, what did I sign up for? Dan and I slept in this little crevice in between the bed and the wall on a sleeping bag on the tile, and it was roasting because there wasn't AC in our room. And all of us were crammed in there. He recruited Dan and I. One day when we were going over to pay rent, he told us about it. So I thought this was a good thing that I could make some money to save up and pay bills with, and it wasn't that at all. But I did learn a lot about politics and the government and how corrupt they are. And I agreed with a lot of the things that Michael said.
Me and Dave were the most willing to put ourselves out there. I mean, I initially didn't want to. I was hoping someone else would step up and be more of a public personality because of the broken tooth. I really hate meeting new people, especially meeting lots of new people representing someone else with looking kind of like a hillbilly. The side of his van said a true David versus the Goliath story, and at first it seemed a little bit of an exaggeration, but then after reading it, after being in it for a while and actually looking into the way politics work and all that, I was pretty blown away by how built into the system the way everything works is, and that that's what he said a bunch of times. I completely believed by the end was that the problems are very systemic and doesn't really make room for small people with ideas, which I feel like are probably most of the best ideas come from people who don't have money or vested interests and that sort of thing. And that's why I really supported that, just the fact that I liked that he was actually willing to try, even though most people thought or knew it was a waste of time. The fact that he was willing to burn out time and money to just for the symbolic issue part of it, I thought was really respectable.
Everything, the odometer, the gas, everything's not pulling it when I turn it on.
Okay,
So
yeah,
there is
that's the problem.
Got this elusive electrical problem. We had it towed to a mechanic, and he changed out the relay, and he said, you're just going to have to take it to the dealer because it's the power control module. And so we had it towed over to the dealer in Key West. And they said, yeah, this is bad because it's going to take a week to order it. And it's right here at the beginning of our trip. And I looked at the van, and I kind of beseeched it. You've got to start. We can't get stuck down here in Key West. So I got in the van, turned the key, and it started. It started perfectly. And a mechanic who's working on it had this astonished look, and he came up and he says, it's running. I said, yeah, I know. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to start it again. Now that it starts, we're just going to take off and go.
It looks like I'm not going to be able to cycle on the overseas highway, so we'll pick it up again probably around Homestead.
Yesterday was a really tough day. We had a breakdown and ended up having to be towed twice, pulling the trailer. Fortunately, my friend Babette lent us her condo in South Florida, and we put the van in the garage. And David and I came out, and David, the first thing I hear is David going like, "Oh no, this is bad."
Oil slick was just like the BP oil spill. Basically, came down under the car, bunch of oil, and we were pretty shocked. I was pretty mad.
This is the problem with cars, you know. And so we're going to do the responsible thing. We're going to clean up the oil slick. Talk about a metaphor for this whole problem with the oil business. And cars, they run on oil, they're dirty, and they do nasty things sometimes. I thought this might be the end of the trip, and it turned out to just be a seal, a transmission seal. So if we had done something with our energy policy 40 years ago, this would never have happened, and we wouldn't have an oil slick out in the Gulf either. This just looks like, I think this is just kitty litter. I thought this was some special stuff. Yeah, this oil slick even had a wildlife issue. The little frog was hopping through it. Millionaires Row here.
Okay, yeah. All right. Okay. Hi there. I'd like to welcome everybody. This evening. My name is Steve Taylor. I'm happy to be here with all of you and my friend Michael Arth this evening. I met Michael about 15 years ago. At first, I didn't know quite what to make out of him. I thought, to put it mildly, maybe he was a little crazy. But one thing I learned over the years was never to underestimate Michael. I think most people go through the same process. They go from underestimating him to eventually calling him a visionary. When I think about what a visionary is and the vision that Michael has demonstrated, I think about his experience over in DeLand, Florida, that is chronicled in his documentary that I hope everybody has a chance to pick up. But he went into DeLand in 2001 and took the worst part of a town, a part that a lot of people said was hopeless and that was beyond repair. And through 6 years of very hard work, he brought hope and he brought vision and he brought inspiration to a neighborhood and to a community and to that part of the state. He really inspired and motivated an entire community. And I think now it's time to let him inspire Florida and the rest of the country, and to take his ideas and his vision to a broader audience. So with that, let me introduce my friend, Michael Arth.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. You've all heard the stories about Paris in the 20s, the painters, the cafe life, the rich textured street life. So Le Corbusier's vision for Paris was to bulldoze the heart of Paris and put a giant freeway right through the middle with skyscrapers on either side. Fortunately, the city fathers of Paris decided, well, maybe that wouldn't be such a great idea after all. However, what Le Corbusier did not do in Paris was done to the rest of the world. His vision of skyscrapers and freeways and automobiles everywhere is the world that we inherited from Le Corbusier and all of the modernists. And there's a lot of modernist architecture which is beautiful, but the general effect was that urban planning fell to engineers instead of artists, instead of urban planners who had a vision of quality of life that contained all of the ingredients that we need in order to survive. It boiled down to getting cars around faster and faster. In fact, Le Corbusier said, I had this vision that I'll live 20 miles in one direction under a tree somewhere, and my secretary will live 20 miles in the other direction. And that's exactly what's happened.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Truth, a radio program designed with you in mind. I'm Gwen Asmere. My guest tonight is a gubernatorial candidate, our own Michael Arth, and that's Earth without the E. Praise God. And he's from the west side of Volusia County. And he's going to tell you all about himself, all about his platform, and then he's going to answer some questions. We want to, number one, applaud the fact that he is running. You know, that he has the guts to actually get in there and do something and not just talk about it, but actually take some action himself, because this is quite an undertaking. Number two, we also want to applaud the fact that he has already done so much in terms of helping people with housing, helping to improve their self-esteem by their opportunities to actually get into housing, and to clean up neighborhoods, help to improve the overall development and economic actually development of the community as well. If you live in DeLand or you've been through DeLand, I'm sure you've seen the Garden District. You know, there are a lot of people who won't run for office, or they won't serve on boards, or they won't get involved in certain types of things because of the mystique that's involved with it, because they think it's just too difficult to do, or it's just too difficult to get involved. And that's one of the things that makes it great about your running. But you're finding that in terms of special interests and the like, that it really can be very difficult for an outsider to get inside.
I was in the Democratic Party for a year as a candidate. When I first called them up, by accident I got one of the party leaders, the communications director, Eric Jatkoff. Sorry, it's his real name. And he said, what business do you have running? And I said, well, I know a lot about the issues. In fact, I know a lot more about them than Alex Sink. And he said, well, it's not about the issues. It's about the money. Do you have $3 million to start? Do you have another $1.3 million a week? Well, if you don't, then you have no business running. He says, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. He says, it would shred every last bit of idealism that I would have to work in the fundraising side of things. And I said, well, I am an idealist, but I'm a pragmatist too, and I know there are solutions to this problem. The biggest problem is, you've just articulated it, is that even in our own Democratic Party, we have an undemocratic system. And that these elections are not elections, they're auctions. Conversation ended about there. That was the last time until I confronted Karen Thurman at the Democratic conference in October that any official would return my call. Alex Sink, who's the anointed candidate and who the Democratic Party leadership has been, they break party neutrality. They've endorsed her. They've spent over $1 million of Democratic Party funds on ads for her and fundraising. In the bylaws for the DECs, those are the Democratic Executive Committees, it's forbidden to endorse a candidate before the primary. I confronted the party leadership over this, and I got back a legalistic letter saying, well, that applies to you guys, but it doesn't apply to us. So the party leaders can just do what they want. It's like the old Politburo, where the party leaders decide who's going to run, and then we get to have the illusion of a democracy by voting on their choice. And so if we have only two parties, and only the party leader, a handful of people, decide at the top who's running, then where's the democracy? It's an illusion. At the conference, I confronted this head on when I stood by the stage and tried to speak after the anointed one spoke. And Karen Thurman, the chairman of the party, stepped off the stage, and she literally barred my way and indicated to cut the mics and said, we're not going to let you speak. We just want to focus on one candidate. I thought about grabbing the stage and saying my piece. And then I thought, well, I don't really want to get thrown out on the first night of the conference. I paid $500 for a table and paid several $100s in delegates' fees. This was the first night. And also we had the best table in the whole conference. It was just the luck of the draw. Happened to come in a little bit late. They gave me a table that was right at the terminating vista of the main hall. And we were doing great. I was giving out the DVDs. We were signing up people left and right for donations. People were very interested in the campaign. The party staffers saw this. So the next morning when we came in, all of my stuff was stolen. The table was given to somebody else. Of course, I was outraged and found one of the staff members. What happened to my table? Where's my stuff? Oh, I don't know. And they looked around, finally found somebody who said, well, we move people around from day to day, and we put you in another room. And they had put me in a room at the far end of the whole conference, in a room by myself, and there was an empty table. I had to go find my stuff. I got out my video camera. This is what I find amazing is they're so blatant they don't even care. Go ahead and film it. It won't make any difference. Yeah, arrogant. This is day 2. The first incident happened on Friday. This was Saturday. So we start carrying the table back. And the Disney people showed up, and the staffers were assembling because they wanted to stop me. And the Disney people said, we're going to carry his table back. Yeah, we had him all the stuff. And that's it. And they put it on a trolley and brought the table back to close to where it was before.
Thanks for your help. Welcome.
They left us alone after that incident because we had the Disney people backing us up. But I mean, that's the kind of petty stuff. They'll do whatever it takes to make me go away, and I'm not going to do it. This is how effective the propaganda has been. That the question doesn't even arise about how much democracy we have in this country. I've had Tea Party people come up to me and they see the cover of my book, Democracy in the Commonwealth. On the back it says, we've been shortchanged on the change. I want my democracy back. And they said, well, we don't have a democracy. And I say, well, I agree with you on that part. And they said, we have a republic. And I said, well, go read your James Madison. He talked about having a representative democracy. You can't have a republic that's worth anything unless you also have that you're able to represent the people. We have a government of the people and by the people and for the people, as Lincoln once said, or we don't. And right now we don't. And so the only reason I'm running is because I don't see any candidates out there who can even articulate what these issues are and then are willing to stand up against the two-party system and against the entrenched financial and economic elites and say, this is what we've got to do. This is a sabal palmetto. It's our state tree. So this is the tree that represents Florida. And what this is a strangler fig tree. And this represents special interests strangling our tree of government. That's why I put it on the cover of my book here. which is called Democracy in the Commonwealth, breaking the stranglehold of the special interests. And what happens is a bird usually will excrete a seed high up in this palm or in another tree, and a root will drop down. So it starts off, very insidiously, and then the tree will then start wrapping itself around the host tree, and eventually, especially if it's something other than a palm, it'll kill the host, and the host will rot away. A lot of times you'll get a hollow space inside the strangler fig tree. But palms are a symbol of hope because they often escape from the strangler figs. That's why I put them on the cover here. You see the palms, the strangler figs are growing out to the side and the palms keep growing up. The two trees have developed a symbiosis. And it's just like our government, and we've gotten used to it. So we don't even notice it anymore. So we need to carefully extricate this parasitic host from our tree of government. You notice they look very seductive, nice glossy green. That's to draw you in, get your money. They give you figs. So you're like, oh good, I get some figs. I guess I'll support this parasite. It's really got it in its grip, doesn't it? Nice to meet you. What's your name?
My name is Patsy Jones, and I'm a true Democrat.
Okay,
I'm
good.
a switch Democrat.
All right.
I am a true Democrat.
I'm a true Democrat too. That's why I left the undemocratic party.
Our club in Celebration, Florida, invited him to come speak 18 months ago. The club is the Democrats of Celebration. I kind of am afraid to say the Democrats of Celebration because when we invited Michael Arth, he was going to be the next governor of Florida. And we knew that because what he said was so brilliant and what he said was so focused and what he said made so much sense. We said the Democratic Party would be crazy not to anoint you as their candidate for governor. And it's my great pleasure to introduce the man who should be governor of Florida, who is now a no-party affiliation candidate who hands down beats the two major party candidates. They are scared to death of him, and that's why they didn't let him actually compete for the candidacy in the Democratic Party to be governor of Florida. Here is my good friend, Michael E. Arth.
Thank you, Dave. I come from outside politics. I don't like politics. However, I've been studying it for 16 years. And sort of like if you come across a car wreck on the side of the road and you see somebody bleeding, you have an ethical obligation to stop and render aid. And the more you know about medicine, the higher your ethical obligation. So I know a lot about public policy and politics, and I see that our body politic is ailing. So I realize that I have a higher obligation to step in and try to do something about it, even though I don't like it.
One thing I know is that we can't steer ourselves out of this crisis by heading in the same disastrous direction. We can't change directions with a driver who wants to follow the same old map. We don't need another driver going into the ditch. We need somebody who's calm and steady who can stay on the road. And that's what this election's all about. The stakes could not be higher. The choice could not be clearer. I love you back.
Because he was promising change, but he didn't intend to make those changes. We see that now. We see that he's a politician at heart. But he won because he appeared sincere, and so many of us believed it. I remember I had tears in my eyes on election night thinking, oh my God, it actually might start happening, some of these changes.
America, the
And I'm sure a lot of you felt the same way. Well, it didn't happen. Almost none of it happened. And it's not going to happen. But that's also why he was elected. If he had been a sincere reformer, he would never have gotten to where he is. But our system rewards people who appear sincere, but who in reality are going to play ball. So he played ball. For me, it's not so much about this particular office. It's about becoming a public figure in order to discuss these issues. If that means running for governor, okay. If it means running for Senate, fine. If it means doing a documentary or writing books, I don't really know the best way to do it. Our collective intelligence will perhaps summon forth a way for the information to be disseminated. I'm doing everything I can think of, and maybe I'll come up with something that'll be the idea. But more likely, somebody else is going to come up with a way of getting this information out and sparking the memes that are going to be replicating in people's minds so that something actually gets done. And if everybody in the country knew what you know now, there would be a revolution almost overnight.
I was really happy to be there. It was a nice family and good home-cooked meals.
Well, usually they kind of trust my judgment as far as people go. But I just told him he was a really interesting guy and he's running for governor. And I had no idea that you would be doing filming in my house, but I mean, they were okay with that too.
Hey there.
They don't mind.
Brought my own bed.
And they figured, if
I think I'll put it in that room.
If he has any kind of potential influence over the state, they would like to hear what he has to say.
That's my spot. Yeah, pretty good.
Looking forward to taking it easy?
Oh yeah, I'd love going to bed at night. I tell you, that's one thing. When you ride all day, feels great going to sleep.
Rested for about...
That's enough.
That was it.
So that's it. Let's go again.
Brittany started coming home and telling me about this wonderful man she met. Oh, he's great, Mom. He's got a lot of great ideas. You can't wait for him to meet. You got to meet him. You got to meet him. I'm like, well, okay, Brittany, that sounds good. She goes, well, as a matter of fact, I think I want to go on the road and help him do a little bit of campaigning. I have to meet this man. And she's like, sure. So here we are. And I'm so glad I did. I can tell a good person when I see him, when I talk to him. This gives you that good feeling.
Yep, hands across the sands.
Yeah, that starts at...
They couldn't have picked a worse time, right at high noon. One of the events, they wanted everyone to wear black on a Florida beach at noon. So we're not going to that event. We're going to go to the one where it's come as you are.
Yeah, stretch it out because we got to... Let's put extenders in this. Clean energy. It's the sunshine state. So the system selects bad leaders. And so changing riders is not going to change the system. You're just going to get another scoundrel.
Yeah, I think we've learned by now that if you have money, you have some degree of instant legitimacy. That certainly was the case for Rick Scott, despite the fact that Rick Scott had a questionable track record as a CEO. But nonetheless, he was able to come on to the scene fast and furiously with relatively little connection. And importantly, not only did he have relatively little connection to Florida, he was a relative unknown, but the Republican establishment opposed him. He proved the importance of money in politics. If I make $50,000 and somebody else makes $500,000, they have 10 times more power and voice in politics than I do if the measure of politics is money.
How you doing? Happy July 3rd. Thank you. Hey! George Washington, the father of our country, who led our country in the Revolutionary War, belonged to no party. Every year, Congress and the House of Representatives would read George Washington's speech about the danger of party and divisiveness. And what has happened is since the 1980s, the House of Representatives stopped reading it.
Michael.
Hey, good to see you. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. I certainly still enjoy your lectures.
Peter, are you really running for governor?
Yep, I'm really running here.
I saw that and I was so excited.
You're running for governor?
Running for governor and riding this bicycle from Key West up to Pensacola.
So, just out of curiosity, what are your views on abortion?
I believe it's a woman's right to choose.
A woman's right to choose?
Yeah.
Can't vote for you.
Yeah.
I feel that one issue tells me the character and the nature of that human being.
Yeah. How do you feel about capital punishment?
I believe that capital punishment in the Old Testament and in the New Testament was legitimate. For those that are guilty.
So it's okay to kill adults, but
not kill.
Well, you're talking about innocent and guilty people.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you one example.
I think a baby's a human.
I believe that if you purge society of a convicted murderer who premeditates murder, that is legitimate. However, to kill an innocent human being in a womb is not.
Well, we're not all created equal. This guy, Roger Cherry, he killed 2 innocent people in my neighborhood. He killed a 75-year-old and an 80-year-old, and he murdered them and stole their guns. He's on death row right now. And at first, when I first heard about it, I thought, yeah, let the guy fry. Then I started looking into his background, and he was raised by parents. First of all, they didn't want him. He lived underneath the house. He just ate whatever he could find. His father beat him with an oil-soaked rope. His father killed somebody in front of the guy. The guy huffed gasoline. He had brain damage. He was borderline mentally retarded. And you go through he went to Dozier School for Boys where he was raped by the guards. Okay, you go through his life, and there are good reasons for him being a monster, and he should be locked up. But to execute this guy, once you know his background, he had poor genes. He had horrible circumstances.
I would purge society.
He was a poor innocent child and he was abused.
I have no pity against that except for that Christ could save him in jail, but he has to pay for the crimes that he did, or else we have a lawless society.
I'm not saying you don't put him in jail, but to kill this guy.
If you're going to be governor,
you're
going to have to make that decision.
I would, and I would end capital punishment because I don't think that men do not have a right to take away others' lives like that.
But abortion's okay.
First of all,
but abortion could be a choice.
First of all, I think there is a difference and a choice to be made between between bringing an unwanted child into this world. Do you know we have 220,000 more children every single day on this planet?
And but how many people?
220,000 more.
How many people are waiting to adopt those children?
Not enough. The carrying capacity of the planet cannot support this growing population.
So we kill them?
To me, it's not murder.
I keep voting
for but for you, it's a moral issue. No. So every sperm is sacred to you.
Yes. Life is sacred.
There's no limit to the number of people that we should bring onto the earth.
Life is sacred. Who do you make the judgment?
We make the judgment as humans. I don't see Jesus down here directing traffic.
Oh, yes, he is.
Do you?
He's directing traffic right here in my heart.
All right.
Right. That's why I can't have a governor like you.
You know.
And I really do like you as a person. You seem like a nice guy. Well, but your thinking's warped.
Well, good people do good things. Bad people do bad things. But for good people to do evil, that takes religion.
Well, the terrorist bomb. Like I said, the devil's in the world. He's doing things.
They say that they've got God in their heart, and they're just doing what God tells them to do.
They don't know the Christ whom I serve.
How do you know?
How do I
Isn't
know?
that the sin of pride?
No, by the tree.
Isn't it the sin of pride for you to say that you know the truth?
Listen, I didn't say that. And my ministry is casting out of demons in the name of Jesus Christ. By the way, do you have any?
No, I don't. Do you think I do?
Yes.
You see a devil in my eyes? Appreciate it. All right, take care. Have a good evening. Watch out, I got the devil in me.
Just imagine if you applied to a corporation for a very important job, and the qualifications for the job, instead of having college degrees or a great resume, instead all you had to have were yard signs, campaign gewgaws, attack ads, and propaganda. And this is how we choose our leaders. These are the most important jobs in our country. Instead of even asking for a resume, we just depend on name recognition. It's like choosing a cheerleader in high school, not even that qualified in some cases.
The heart of the problem is, to exaggerate, but not too much, that we don't really have elections. We have a choice every 4 years between representatives of the business community whose views most of the population opposes. And that's a kind of an election, but of a very limited nature. Actually, that's, I think, the major reason why the campaigns increasingly over the years avoid issues and focus on personalities, on whether some locution was exactly properly stated, on alleged character issues and so on. That's not what the population wants, but that is what party managers want. They do not want issues discussed, and the reason is, as you can tell from public opinion studies, that on a host of major issues, both political parties are considerably more reactionary and jingoistic than the general public is.
Met her in a Key West bar. Said, look out, it'll go too far. 5 long years can go by fast. Cattle dogs and a pussy cat. Let me take you there. 'Cause I don't want here. I'm trying to be sincere. Let me take you there.
This is the 4th trip to the mechanic, 3rd tow. The first time it broke down, we were in Key West. So the second time that it stopped like this, we had to be towed 70 miles back to this dealership, and I said, you got to check it out right away while it's still having the problem. And they can't fix the problem unless the problem's occurring while they're trying to fix it.
Barometric pressure out of range.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
So now got the van again. Who knows how long it's going to last? And so I'm just going to take it back. Still got the problem. Going back on the road. I don't know what else to do.
Here's how it works. You put it in your mind what the goal is. And of course you do your homework and you do your research. You do your due diligence and you try everything you can think of. And at the same time you leave yourself open, because there are things that are going to happen that you would never have thought of. And there'll be almost miraculous seeming coincidences that will occur if you leave yourself open to these things. And so that's what we need in this race. We need a real synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence or a series of meaningful coincidences that occur because we've cast our seed in different directions. We put the ideas out there. The people who can help will be drawn to the campaign. Things might happen, something might spark in the media. That's the region that we have to operate in. We need good mojo, in other words. I can't predict whether we're going to get it or not, but one thing's for sure is I'm open to that. And being open to it is a huge step, and most people, I think, neutralize their efforts with negative thinking. The issues that are on the minds of most Floridians are those issues that were put there by the two parties and the media who don't really want them to think about how we could get out of this mess. This is why campaign advisors tell me not to talk about the things I'm talking about, because they want me to work the formula.
What do they not want you to talk about?
Well, they don't want me to talk about the war on drugs, economics or our monetary system, how to rebuild the cities, electoral reform, legalizing victimless crimes of any kind. They don't want to talk about the prison-industrial complex or the military-industrial complex, and I could go on and on. Just about all the important issues are ignored. They're truly important issues. Ones that are too obvious to be ignored, such as the oil spill out in the Gulf. This one should be an obvious one. It's to achieve clean energy and independence. All this relates to jobs. If you fix the monetary policy, within a year you could have full employment by focusing on spending the money into existence on the infrastructure and starting to spend it on productive things. Cut the military budget and start to shift the resources toward things that actually help people. Energy, infrastructure, education, rebuilding the cities, ending the war on drugs. There's a whole list of things we could do that would be productive and that would put people to work. But we have to have a fundamental restructuring of our economic system. That's how you create jobs. Also, in the future, we've got a huge problem looming, and that is what to do about automation. And that should be beginning to reduce the workload for people. And we've got to spread the wealth that's created by automation and by the information explosion. And so we need to be planning for this. Instead, very little discussion has been taking place in regards how we're going to handle a more roboticized industry and the effects of artificial intelligence on genetics, robotics, information, nanotechnology, all these other fields, cognitive sciences, all these other fields that are developing that can provide a great boon to mankind. The politicians, they don't understand it, it doesn't get votes, and so they don't want to talk about it. No matter what the problem is, there's a systemic institutional resistance to making any changes. Millions of people have jobs that have developed as a result of dysfunctional policies. And so no matter how bad it is, they don't want to change those policies. When I was approaching Jacksonville, there was a huge thunderstorm coming up with lightning. I was riding into it, and I felt extremely small and vulnerable at that point. And just then I noticed a funnel cloud coming down, and as I headed into the cloud, I could see that there was a vortex whirling on the ground. So it was a small tornado. And at that point I turned around and went back. But in some sense, fighting this two-party duopoly is like trying to lasso a tornado.
Let's cross that bridge.
With enough public awareness of the problem, we could pressure Congress to pass a voting rights amendment that would allow us to elect decent leaders. The amendment should take money out of elections, replace the Electoral College with direct popular voting, and replace winner-take-all with ranked choice voting and proportional representation. These measures would minimize corruption and end the two-party duopoly. Today, the powers that be block reforms by manipulating the people with an endless flood of campaign money and by creating the illusion of choice in rigged elections. It won't be easy, but the information age could allow us to cross the river of ignorance and find enlightenment on the other side.
So this is the end of the trail. I have to get back on the highway now. I'm not too happy about that. There's no shoulder or anything.
Yeah, it's going to be like this most of the way to Pensacola, unfortunately.
So, did you cheat or did you get a ride? Did someone pick you up? No. Don't lie.
I passed you, like,
Did you?
I saw you. Yeah, I honked and waved.
No, I saw you too.
Yeah, I saw you.
And then, like,
Yeah, you're at the correctional facility.
And then you called and you're like, here. Like, you must have done some good time.
Or some good cocaine. 11 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour is about all it is. It's like the tortoise in the
And it's
hare.
not like you're, it's not like you're Tour de France in it, you know.
Yeah. Well, you guys are jackrabbing it down the road, and you stop. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, here he comes. You know? Not 2 hours later, after this conversation, I'm plodding along again, and lo and behold, if there wasn't a tortoise in the same road I was on the shoulder of the road, heading in the same direction. And every time I called, he hunkered down in his shell just like that. And I felt the same way because as I was cruising along, sometimes I would ride on the opposite side of the street just like he was, so I could see the vehicles coming. But every time a car or a truck would pass, especially a truck would pass, I would just get this involuntary flinching. After a while, my shoulders were aching from having cinched up so much.
How come you're here?
Because I was up in Dothan, had a remodeling business up there.
Yeah.
And hired a homeless guy actually to work for me. And gave him a place to stay, fed him, clothed him. He drove off and left me at Lowe's. The end result was that I'm on the streets now. I couldn't afford to keep paying for my place. I lost Dad. I lost everything I had.
Do you ever sleep under a bridge?
I have.
Yeah.
But I prefer not to. It's not a very safe place.
It's pretty noisy too, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Tell me how you ended up here.
Well, I went down to Gulfport for the oil spill. I couldn't hit no work.
And how long have you been homeless?
Oh, 21 years.
Do you usually stay under bridges?
No, I've had places where I work. I get hotels and that, but I've been out more than I've been in.
So do you ever sleep in the woods?
Oh, I got camps in woods all over the United States.
Yeah.
I was never homeless before. My grandmother died last year. I was living with her and taking care of her, and lost my job and lost the apartment.
So what are you hoping to do here?
Well, I'm just passing through. I'm trying to get to Colorado.
Do you have a job opportunity there?
No, but gotta be something somewhere.
Yeah. Tell me about what you're reading.
Oh, People's History of the United States. Tells the truth, and the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Because
the two-party system is a sham. It's meant to suck off energy to the ballot.
is I'm Michael Arth, and I live in DeLand, Florida. And I actually just rolled in after 800 miles bicycling the length and the breadth of Florida. And what I've seen along my trip and what I've heard about all of this, he just mentioned 268 birds killed. There were almost that many oil rigs that collapsed during the 2000s, during the hurricanes we had. I think this is an opportunity to look at the big picture. And the big picture is that we don't have a democracy in this country. We've sold off our democracy to the oil companies, and they are the ones who set the policy. 40 years ago, Nixon announced Project Independence to become energy independent. And here we are 40 years later. Think about that. 40 years later, we haven't done a damn thing. We're still the same place we were 40 years ago, except that in 1970, 40 years ago, we reached peak oil. That was our opportunity to turn this ship around. I think we should take this opportunity not to focus so much on this particular tragedy, because every 6 years we have the equivalent of an Exxon Valdez in our Gulf of Mexico from all the other spills. This is an ongoing tragedy, and it has a solution. We can begin today to demand that we have representative democracy in this country, that we no longer sell off our democracy to the special interests who have determined that our energy policy is going to be based on oil. We spend $1.5 trillion a year on our combined military and defense budget. $1.5 trillion. The true cost of gasoline is over $12 a gallon because of all the subsidies to the oil industry. And all people will talk about is just now we're reaching parity with solar energy and oil, but they're not taking into account this huge subsidy to the oil industry. It's an ongoing tragedy. We're like the frog being boiled in the water slowly. We need to take a look at the big picture. And right now we're looking at the trees. 268 birds. That's what we're looking at instead of the entire planet. Thank you.
I'm just so over going to hear speech and hear canned speeches, the debates, they get nasty, all the stuff on television is nasty, I'm sick of it. This way I can sit down and talk to you and ask you point blank what it is I want to ask you, and I'm not going to let you give me the runaround.
That's right. Go! There you go.
Fabulous. Thank you. We will enjoy this. So, are we dating again?
Yeah, I guess we're dating again. Well, the biggest and most important issue and the biggest challenge is electoral reform, and the biggest challenge is that nobody knows that we need it. You know, most people, they understand miscounting the votes.
Oh, that would never happen in Florida.
Right, that part they get. And then a lot of people think that maybe we shouldn't just make elections about money. But there's not really a groundswell of people demanding that we take money out of politics. And the reason is because too many people are making money from money in politics. Our system is corrupt to its core, and it's hard to know where to start, but electoral reform would at least allow us to start getting the leaders we need and to make it about the issues instead of about the money and about personalities. But no matter what issue they touch, they're going to offend somebody. And so they end up talking about nothing. Or they'll make small issues into something big, like it'll all be about abortion. These are just symptoms of the problem. The real problem is the system itself. And I don't want to be a politician. I hate the culture of politics. I'm a problem solver, and so I want to get in a position to start talking about these things because it's going to take a long time to change them.
Isn't that why the Tea Party is so popular right now? Because people have just had it with the system?
Yes, but the reason the Tea Party has gotten popular is because it fits into the corporate agenda. Hi there, Michael Arth. Pleasure to meet you.
Probably I could get an idea of where you stand on taxes if I just found out one, do you know about the fair tax?
Yes, I know about it. The problem with the fair tax is it's not fair. And so we need a progressive tax. This would be a regressive tax, and it would hit the middle class the hardest, and that's not the direction we want to go.
Understood. Thank you for talking to us.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Well, the funniest thing that happened on the road,
Just anything.
Well, like the Rick Scott thing.
I'm sorry.
Well, Rick Scott has been trying to avoid any interviews at all. Any real back and forth interviews, that is. I signed up at Rick Scott's website, and they sent me an invitation to one of his events. The same day that he was avoiding Bill McCullum. The third interview, he just didn't show up. Instead, he had this private affair, which I went to.
Oh, wow.
And because I'm irrelevant, because I don't have money, they had no idea who I was.
Right.
Even though I had a name tag that said Michael on it. And so I asked him this question, what are you going to do about the war on drugs and the escalating incarceration rate in Florida and the 30,000 gang members and all this stuff. And he gave me this answer that would have made Sarah Palin proud, circumnavigations all over the place. But the crowd liked it because he was just talking about education and this and that and the other. That
here's the way I think about it. Step one is as a government, we've got to promote families. But what's been explained to me is the biggest thing is the things that have had the biggest impact are faith-based programs and moving the reading level up.
In some distant way was related to the question, but it didn't answer the question at all. And then as I'm leaving, I said, let's have a group shot here. And his wife comes up, and she's like going, oh, you should take that name tag off. She's pulling it off, and she still has no idea who I am, and we're hugging and all this stuff. And I said, I'm running for governor too. Did you know that? And he's like, no, I didn't. I got this shot of him like, deer in the headlights. Look. And it's a living document. It's not a fossilized, set in stone 10 Commandments. For example, we've got this crazy war on drugs. They saw fit during Prohibition to actually have an amendment, the 18th Amendment. And then when they decided it didn't work, they had a 21st Amendment. Mm-hmm. And now we have this extra constitutional policy which enforces this war on drugs, which is destroying our country and creating contempt for the law. It's created the gangstas, which is a revival of the gangsters of the 20s. And it's driven up our incarceration rates to the highest levels ever. It was started as a racist and cynical campaign ploy, and not one single candidate, a major candidate, will say one word against it. It's completely nuts. And I could list 100 policies like that that are completely crazy. And the politicians won't touch them with a 10-foot pole because it's political suicide. And that's the problem with this country.
We can talk for a long time, Michael. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. We all exist on multiple levels. I'm a husband and a father, and I have a community that I still live in, and I still manage 17 units over there. I'm a part of a county, I'm part of the state, and I'm part of a nation. I'm an earthling, and I have to think about all of those roles.
You're an earthling. They came to our country, we have our beliefs that are backed by Christian values.
Our country was founded on religious freedom. There are 30,000 Christian sects, and there are thousands, maybe 100,000 at least, other kinds of religions in this country alone. And all these people have the freedom to practice whatever religion or non-religion they want to practice. That's what our country is founded on. It's not.
My political beginnings were in the 60s, direct action, marching against the war. I found that to be actually more, working outside the system, I found it to be actually more effective. I campaigned against the war on drugs, it's gotten worse. I campaigned against the bloated military budget, it's gotten worse. I campaigned for universal health care, we're not there, we're not going to get there. I don't see this Obama's health care as a positive step in the long run. For all the things that I stood for, things have gone in the opposite direction. You're not safe. Your ideas are not safe. Your ideas are radical in the sense that they're so different from the mainstream. It doesn't take anybody a lot of time to prove that the mainstream is collapsing and is dysfunctional. Most people will rather go down with a ship they know than to jump on a 21st century life preserver. You're a fringe candidate, you've got no money, you've got 2 months to try and speak to an electorate that is pretty much uncaring, unsympathetic, and unintelligent about issues that are complex. You need to attract media attention to a dumbed down media that cares nothing about issues and only cares about money and personality and stunts. In order to get attention, you have to be a clown. And yet, the real clowns are the major party candidates who are playing their own role, which is just a more acceptable role. So how do you introduce an intelligent campaign into a culture, a political culture, that will only pay attention to you if you're stupid? Now you can do it you can do it creatively. I always thought about this when I was running for Congress and I was coming out against the war on drugs and trying to tread the line between, well, Krulak wants to make all drugs legal, which I did, but my walking the line was, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about decriminalization. I'm talking about harm reduction. I'm talking about a public health issue as opposed to a criminal issue. Had to soften it. This is back in the mid-90s. What I really wanted to do was invite the press and smoke a giant joint and get arrested, because that is what would have gotten the attention.
Here we are at a street corner in Winter Park. This is my first time on a soapbox. It's not even a soapbox because they don't make them anymore.
Right.
Nice bird.
Yeah, he's okay.
Can I see him?
Take him off.
Yeah.
Take him off.
Step up. So that's why we have a bunch of bird brains for leaders in this country.
Birds have good brains.
They're the smartest birds because they know how to talk, right? That's what a politician does. A politician knows how to yammer away without saying anything of importance, like a bird. A bird will parrot back to you what you want to hear. That's like politicians. They'll do what you want them to do in order to get elected. They learn how to do all the circus tricks. All right, so standing on your soapbox doesn't work anymore unless that soapbox is being televised in order to reach a wider audience. I was in the Democratic Party, but then I found out it was really the undemocratic party because they don't want to have a democracy even within the party. One man agrees. Thank you, sir. All right. I got engaged with one person and a reporter. I had a career in fine art. Then I built my own house, and then was designing and building houses on for individual people and individual lives. And I thought, well, I really want to improve the community. And ever since I was a kid, I fantasized about building the perfect city.
Yeah.
So then after rebuilding Cracktown, I was like, well, I see, for example, with the drug laws, that unless you legalize and regulate and tax drugs in the greater society, that you're not going to solve this problem. I went through hell rebuilding one little tiny 4-square block area,
Right.
when tweaking of the policy could transform the whole world.
And 16, but
That's okay.
wish we could because I was a big supporter of you, and I'm liking the outfit. It works.
The financial elite stole from us.
Exactly.
And so it's about giving it back to the people. The elections are a sham, the debates are a sham of a mockery. Robin Hood stole from the rich and gave to the poor. In this case, the rich have stolen from all of us and are giving to themselves. All right, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
All right,
Yes, can I?
come on.
Are you gonna wear that for Halloween? Is the question.
Oh yes, my daughter insists on it. In fact, she picked it out. And then I thought afterwards, I go, hey, this is a great costume for the debates. They should take the money completely out of it. No campaign advertising, no paid lobbyists, no 527s, no PACs, and no paid lobbyists. And then we'd see how it works. Everybody would get a website, and you're required to fill out all the blanks. You have to participate in all the debates. I think the whole process is unfair because they exclude other candidates. I'm a gubernatorial candidate, Michael Arth, by the way. I'm dressed like this because I'm protesting the fact that the financial elite is stealing the wealth of America. And part of the way they do it is by staging these debates between Republicans and Democrats and excluding everyone else.
One of my students got up and said, "I'm Michael Arth." Got an A on the speech. It was an excellent
Got an A,
speech.
good. Probably did better than I do. Yeah.
The parties don't want any sense, any spell of independent candidates.
But they literally told me to go away.
Even George Washington, who was one of his greatest fears, was that parties would dominate the country's politics.
Is that Rick Scott continues to say that I'm an Obama liberal, and you cannot put that label on me. Every newspaper in this state has called me a fiscal conservative with the right plan for Florida, who will cut taxes. That's not.
I think what the debate shows is the dysfunctional nature of our electoral system, where we have candidates that are basically there simply because they had the most money and not the best ideas. And I agree that Mr. King should have taken more control of the process. The media in all its forms have been derelict in their duties because there are 9 people running for governor in this state. Most of the folks in this room don't even know that because the media has shut out the independent voices. And the only time those 2 folks agree is when they shut out other voices from the debate. I think this debate has been pathetic, and I think it's an insult to the intelligence of the people of Florida.
At this point, think that the winner of tonight's debate was Rick Scott. And the winner of tonight's debate, Alex Sink. And the winner of tonight's debate, none of the above.
My running mate has actual solutions to the problems. Part of the problem is it's all about show business right now, and it's all about money. And it's not about problems, solutions, and intelligent people running for office. It's about a broken system and a broken democracy. Let me just say, in any intelligent universe, a man like Rick Scott would never have been on that stage tonight if not for the fact that he spent $70 million, pretty much that he stole from the people in his golden parachute after his company awarded him for the fraud that he perpetrated in the healthcare system running for office. It's an absolute insult to the democratic system, and it just shows how far we've descended from the original ideas of what this country was founded on. Neither of those 2 people are qualified to run this state. Why have they been frozen out and we given the choice of Tweedledee-dee and Tweedledee-dum over and over and over again?
What's your solution?
There's many solutions. I'll let Michael speak to them because he's the expert.
My name is Michael Arth. This is why I'm running for governor. I am the very model of a pragmatic humanitarian. I'm combination designer, philosopher, and utilitarian. I know the presidents that can debate their merits rhetorical, from Washington to Obama, in order categorical. I have some acquaintance too with matters mathematical, regarding ideas for family planning and taxes that are logical. I study things deep, arcane, or even topical, in application to helpful things that are quite practical, like build a house, design a town, or steer the ship of state.
He can build a house, design a town, or steer the ship of state. He can build a house, design a town, or steer the ship of state. He can build a house, design a town, or steer the ship of state.
And with electoral reform, there will be positive synergy to bring new leaders and ideas that will clean up our democracy. In short, I'm a designer, philosopher, and utilitarian. I am the very model of a pragmatic humanitarian.
In short, he is a designer, philosopher, utilitarian. He is the very model of a pragmatic humanitarian.
The 2 parties say it's about the power and the gold. The rights and privileges we deserve have been sold. Campaign advisors say to speak nothing of this autocracy. Keep voters clapping with compliments and pleasantry. They say to tell people simple things they want to hear or misdirect them with all kinds of things built on fear, like terrorism, socialism, death squads, and they'll take your guns. Carry your cross, wave the flag, beware of the drugs and the bums, and don't forget to say that you're going to cut the tax. Remember that unless you lie about these things, you'll get the axe.
Give me your money, the power, keep the status quo, forget the sex. Give me your money, the power, keep the status quo, forget the sex. Give me the money, keep the power, keep the status quo, forget the sex.
No more spoilers, gerrymanders, vote strategizing, or first past the post. No unfair voting, pay-for-play, or paid lobbyists to host. In short, I am a combination designer, philosopher, and utilitarian. I am the very model of a pragmatic humanitarian.
In short, he is a designer, philosopher, utilitarian. He is the very model of a pragmatic humanitarian.
should stop building prisons and end the war on drugs. It's unconstitutional, doesn't work, costs a lot, and makes more thugs. It's a crime made of things not criminal, said Lincoln of Prohibition. It's a distraction from something truly bad, like a stinking politician. Or an energy policy based on war, pollution, debt, and corporate expropriation. Our growth policies have created a suburban nation. Our conglomerating media is based on tabloidization. If it bleeds, it leads, and if it thinks, it stinks beyond recognition. This happens because fairness is something we fail to appreciate. Therefore, representative democracy is something we must contemplate.
Democracy is something we must contemplate. Representative democracy is something we must contemplate. Representative democracy is something we must contemplate.
The election is near and I will do my best to endure and strive, and even if I lose this time, the ideas will remain and will survive. Because I'm a designer, philosopher, and utilitarian, I am the very model of a pragmatic humanitarian.
Because he is a designer, philosopher, utilitarian, he is the very model of pragmatic humanitarian. Democracy! Yes! Michael Arth! A leader of ideas we deserve! It's up to us, after all! This time will we have a choice! Michael Arth for governor!
Rick Scott didn't have to have a political track record in Florida. He didn't have to be known to voters. He didn't have to be supported by the establishment. He didn't even have to be endorsed by any newspaper. In fact, the press distrusts him and finds him, in some sense, it seems, apparently deplorable. But what did he have? He had lots of money.
We've got it. All of our policies have to promote families staying together.
I don't think the only thing that got Rick Scott into office was his money. I think he's actually he's a pretty effective politician to the extent that he sticks to a set of simple themes and he repeats them over and over, and those themes resonate with a lot of Americans. If Michael could do that, speak to culturally resonant sound bites, he could win just as anybody with a lot of ideas, who can speak in sound bites and effective sound bites, and who's photogenic, and Michael's photogenic enough.
I have a good friend, and he actually wrote the introduction to my book, and he told my wife, he said, "Don't tell your husband, but I'm voting for Alex Sink." And the reason he is because he said, well, I don't want to vote for Arth because it'd be a spoiler vote and it'll help Rick Scott get elected. Okay, I can't argue with that. And he said, oh God, she told you? And yeah. But I said, I understand completely. Because it's cruelly set up so that you can't do it with voting. Unless everybody en masse in the whole country said they were going to do it. The spoiler effect is very effective at keeping out third-party candidates.
Yeah, there came a point when it was clear that the race between Alex Sink and Rick Scott was tight. And any rational voter in our somewhat screwed up system will, at that point, when it's clear that it's unclear who's going to win, whether it's the Democrat or Republican, and you know that the stakes are pretty large. These are quite different candidates in some ways. Will vote for the lesser evil. Under those circumstances, I've felt obliged to vote for Alex Sink, and I felt bad about it. Right? It's particularly poignant and difficult when you know the guy personally, and not only do you know the guy personally, but you admire him, and you think that he's got some good ideas, and you think he'd actually make a pretty good governor. And I wrote the foreword in his book, and nonetheless, I felt I had to follow the rules of the game. And the rules of the game in this twisted game are, if you don't want the worst to be elected, when it's a close race, you have to vote for the lesser evil. In a different system, with a different ballot, I would have been able to go, I like Michael Arth, that's my first choice. I'm going to vote for him first. If he loses, if it looks like he's not getting the votes, then I want my vote to go to Alex Sink. So Alex Sink would have been my second choice. But I certainly think that it frees people like me to not feel bad, especially under these circumstances, when I know the guy and I like him and I admire him and I think he should be governor and I feel I should be able to vote for him. Any system, any good democratic political system should allow people to express their preferences. I think we take away from this, I go back to that this was kind of a natural experiment in what happens when you have two unknowns one very wealthy, the other one not, both with track records of some kind, both with private sector accomplishments, however questionable those of Rick Scott. And then you find out, given these two relative unknowns, who actually makes it in politics and so there's, in some odd sense, there are lots of things that Rick Scott and Michael Arth have in common, right? They were both in the private sector. They were both unknown. They both have distinct and strong ideas. One has lots of money and the other one doesn't. Who do you think's going to win? It underscores that of this central fact of contemporary American politics. It's not inevitable that money matters. It matters in America because we've made it matter, because the rules of the game make money matter and turn the press off of people with good ideas who don't have the money. If you don't want a corrupt system where private money, right, is what takes over politics, you have to provide public money. Politics would be a lot less expensive if we had publicly financed elections. And wow, what a difference would that make for politics?
If you're not willing to support the way it works, it doesn't seem like you got any chance of anyone even knowing who you are unless you already start out with tons of money. I would say that the system is most people's worst enemy, and especially his.
Out of 3.3 million votes cast, we've got a little over 12,000 votes, which translated into percentages is 0.37%.
When I ran in '96, a guy was running for judge. You know what his name was? He won. His name was Jim Henson. People actually voted for him because of the name associated in their head with the Muppets. This is where I'm sorry to tell you.
Down in Chile, there was a mayoral election. There was a foot powder, and there were signs for foot powder all over town. And foot powder won the write-in for mayor.
Right. See, a democracy only works with an enlightened electorate, not an illiterate, imbecilic electorate.
Yeah. So they had another election and voted in somebody else, but he was so terrible that signs were put out saying, "We want foot powder back."
And that is not
that's a true story.
on-
Now we have an ugly face on an ugly picture with Scott's checkered background. He's now the poster child for our dysfunctional electoral system, and we're going to need that. We need more people like him to show how bad it can get.
Calamity or epiphany. That's the only time the paradigm changes.
Yeah. It's a perilous strategy because the calamity could be a true calamity and not lead to something better. So let's hope now that this calamity will lead to epiphany.
Yeah, but there's this country that re-elected George Bush.
Some people think he was never elected, not the first time or the second time. But perhaps if they had let the system work its way the way it was supposed to, Michael might have been the Democratic candidate. And if Michael were the Democratic candidate and had a chance to put forth his issues and his personality and his vision for the state of Florida against Mr. Scott, who knows what would have happened. But the party, in its corrupt and present state, did what they did, and now they're tasting the bitter fruits of defeat. And they deserve it, quite frankly. They deserve it. They brought it upon themselves.
I guess I'm going to have to give my concession speech pretty soon. I actually have already been working on it. I don't have a victory speech as a backup. It's only a concession speech.
When you're done, please.
You can have Alex Sink. We're going to keep Rick Scott around because he's going to be the governor. We might need to use his stand-up cutout again.
But Alex Sink can draw a mustache on her, right?
Yeah, you can.
Ding, 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 ding. Victory and beyond. Yes.
This is my concession speech. What I would like to concede is as if there had been a level playing field with these two-party candidates, the outcome would be quite different. I also concede that the American electoral process is about money, and that both candidates and our so-called representatives spend most of their time scheming to raise money or engaging in other forms of vote buying and influence peddling. I concede that we do not live in a democracy, but a plutocracy, and that the financial elite has put one of their own into office yet again. I further concede that the Democratic Party has joined with the Republican Party to spoil our democracy. Yet, whenever anyone outside the system tries to run, they get labeled as spoilers. Finally, I concede that our system is a failure and that it must be reformed so that we can have a government that brings the greatest good to the greatest number in the most efficient manner possible to this and future generations. And if we had justice and fair elections, it would be the other candidates making the concession speeches, and all of us would be the winners.